It's a roller coaster. As cliche as it sounds, it's hard to put into words the emotions I go through with this sport and how fast it is. There's days in training where I'm telling myself that this is the last time I'll ever box, and days where I'm itching to be back in the ring moving around. What every session has had in common though is a reward. I've always walked away with something, even if it's me losing a fight. Although it's one of the worst feelings I've gone through, I can always reflect back and see it as a huge jump to an improvement. Within those 2 days, I felt my lowest and I felt on my peak. When I'm in the ring, I'll have moments where it feels like everything is in slow motion. I'll slip and avoid 3, 4 or 5 punches in a row, and it all just clicks. It's like unlocking a new skill in a video game or watching your favourite anime character learn a new move from months and months of training. Hitting the pads or the bag, hearing that perfect snapping sound, I can't think of anything more satisfying, and it just chases me to perfect my form for that one punch. Boxing is a constant conversation with yourself mentally. During a spar or a fight, I'm always having a back and forth argument or a talk in my head, trying to figure out what my next move will be, or a battle to keep pushing even when I can't move. There's a lot of things I've gained from boxing. I could probably go on forever, but the biggest would definitely be confidence and having an open mind. No matter where I was when I was younger, whether that was with friends, family, or school, I'd always been the shyest person in the room and tried to avoid anything that would get me out of my comfort zone. Even just speaking to people was my worst nightmare. Ever since I started boxing, the more I got in the ring, the more my confidence built up, both during training and outside. I know it sounds crazy, but I've always told myself that if I can take a punch to the face, I can basically do a lot of things that I would have chosen to avoid back then. I'm still quite quiet to this day, but I don't overthink as much as before. Boxing has definitely opened my mind and gave me a new perspective after sharing the ring with people from different walks of life. There's a lot that inspires me, but the one that stands out isn't actually a real person. It's a character called Rock Lee from the anime Naruto. He's the embodiment of hard work beats talent and perseverance. When you see a world filled with kids who inherited their abilities, Rock Lee's skills comes purely from endless training and determination, eventually being one of the strongest characters in the whole show. Following his journey has shown that effort and dedication can sometimes outshine talent. It's realistic. You watch him struggle and fail, but always getting back up, no matter how many setbacks or how many people tell him to give up. He's always been a good reminder that potential is unlocked through consistency and heart, rather than just pure talent. Being born in the Philippines was a very rich experience that I will always be grateful for. I was lucky to grow up with an older brother and sister who always looked after me, and I take a lot of influence from. We really got to experience both the beauty and the ugly of the country. Waking up, going for swims every morning, living next to the beach, whilst also being surrounded around general poverty, living by a small province in Cebu. I remember a time when I was maybe around 3 years old, getting a small battery-powered bike that my mum saved up for. I decided to sell it off to a scrap collector because I thought it would impress her if I gave the money back. She wasn't happy at all, but memories like those is what keeps me from pushing today. After our mum moved to the UK for work, and my dad was always working overseas, a lot of my early childhood was spent with our grandparents and other family members. So we was always moving around and surrounded by different people. Reunited with our parents after moving to the UK at the age of 7, it was definitely a huge cultural difference and took a lot of time adjusting to. It was exciting, yet I always felt homesick. But I always knew that it was a choice by my mum and dad to give us better opportunities than what they had. Early stages of school in the UK was definitely the toughest growing up. The language barrier was a big obstacle and it did take a lot of time to overcome. I always felt judged for my English, and I remember in primary school crying over the smallest things because I couldn't understand the other kids. Whilst my parents were hoping I'd go uni, I couldn't even get a single GCSE, which even today I still feel very disappointed at myself for. With my mum always working overtime and my dad working 2 jobs, I started to realise how much work I need to put in to be able to give back. I was never really troublesome or ever got into violence in school, but martial arts and fighting has always interested me. Back in school, I was always glued to an iPad, watching a lot of Bruce Lee videos, fight highlights, fight breakdowns, basically anything to do with combat sports. I knew I wanted to get into martial arts from then, but I still had school to finish. It was only until during college where I watched a boxing anime called Hajime no Ippo, which got me started into studying boxing at home. With no money to buy equipment or boxing lessons, I picked up a job at McDonald's so that I could get started. I placed an Amazon order for my first boxing equipment, checked Google for boxing clubs near me, and decided to just turn up. One of the best decisions I've ever made. The more I learned, the stronger I got, and the higher my confidence became. As my ego got bigger, the fighters that I used to watch before on my iPad now felt very possible to reach. From self-defense to now craving to compete whenever I can. I've always got a positive mindset, but the journey has definitely been tough. With how long it takes to get a fight, losing in that ring is a different feeling to other losses. I constantly think about it and have no one really to blame but myself. You didn't train hard enough, you didn't try enough. I go through these loops of thoughts of things that I had control over. There was a period when I first started where I lost 3 fights in a row. After every single one, I was getting better and learning from them. But it didn't make sense, I still kept losing. I felt like all the years leading up to that last match was wasted. My friends would come to those fights, spend money for a ticket, and take time out of their day, just for them to tell me at the end, you'll get the next one. For this to happen 3 times in a row, I was finally thinking that it just might not be for me. But as I look back from how much I improved compared to where I started, and how much I'm learning from each loss, I thought I'd hold on and see if this will maybe finally pay off. Since those losses, I was very inactive and barely trained. I found it hard to find a motivation to continue boxing, but I received a message and accepted a fight on 1 day notice. I decided to focus more on enjoying myself this time instead of just going out for a win. I was also the underdog in that fight, weighing kilos less than the other boy, barely training and taking it on very short notice. The only thing I had on my side was experience. But I turned up, won it, and got the greatest relief that all those years was not wasted. My experience came out on top and those losses had a huge play in that win.